We're going to show you how to make apricot cream puff. So don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome, my name is Trishonna, and these are my sisters, Audrey and Emberly, and we're the Benton Sisters. We've discussed so far the 7 laws for natural health, and today is law number 8. As Jesus went about the countryside in the Bible times, healing the sick and the suffering, so it is still his desire to give us healing today. In cooperation with the 8 organic laws of health that he has given us, we may find his greatest blessing. All 8 natural laws of health are linked together in close connection with the health of our body and mind. By eating the foods that he has provided, we place ourselves in his protective care. This is law number 1, nutrition. When we exercise, we give aid to the assimilation of food that we eat, and he also builds our body through exercise. This strengthens our heart muscle and helps to increase circulation. This is law number 2. Law number 3 is water. It cleanses and stimulates on the outside, and on the inside, pure, fresh water increases the blood volume and washes away toxins, recharging the system. Law number 4 is sunlight. This was created to recharge the body and give us energy and helps to kill bacteria. Number 5 is fresh air. This was created for us to clear our mind and help aid in inducing sound sleep. Then we have number 6, which is rest. This allows our body to rebuild and recharge itself from the work and exertion we have done during the day. Temperance is very important. This is a key law to keep all the other laws in healthful balance. And now we come to number 8, which is trust in divine power. As we learn to incorporate all 7 laws into our lifestyle, it's good to know and wonderful to know that we can trust in divine power for God's blessing. For he is the greatest doctor of them all. Now, what are you going to show us today, Emberly?
Okay, we're going to make our filling for our apricot cream puff. And we'll read the ingredients off to you. It calls for 1 batch of our oil-free bread recipe, 1 1/4 cup of boiling water, 3 tablespoons of Ames kosher gel, 1/2 cup of cashews, 1/2 cup of honey, and you want light, mild flavored honey, 2 tablespoons of lecithin granules, 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of peach extract, 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract, 1 can of coconut milk, 1 1/3 cups of dried apricots diced.
Okay, let's get started here.
Okay, you can go ahead and add the cashews to the blender, and I'm going to get the hot water. And she's adding the salt and the Ames. Now, one thing you want to remember when you're purchasing your Ames gelatin at the health food store, you'll notice on the shelf, if you notice a white-looking Ames or a yellow color to it, you want to get the lightest-looking color, the whitest-looking color you can find. That will be the freshest, and it'll work a lot better. And as we've noticed as we've been working with these ingredients, the Ames, if you use Ames that's darker, it will tend not to set up as well. And then another thing, she's adding the lecithin, and when you're purchasing the lecithin at the health food store, you also want to get the lightest looking color of lecithin.
What happens if the lecithin is dark?
When you're making your cream, it'll have like a rancid flavor.
Oh, it'll be a little bit bitter?
To it.
Okay.
And then she's adding the apricots, and the 1/3 cup of apricots, you want to reserve that for later, and we'll show you later what we're going to do with that. And now she's going to add the honey, and honey, we like to use the lightest honey. It gives it a nice, wonderful, mild flavor, and you don't want your delicious cream to have a honey after flavor unless you like the flavor of honey. And so this makes it really nice. And then we'll add our coconut milk. Now, one thing you want to remember when you have your coconut milk, that you can use any brand of coconut milk that's out there. It doesn't matter which kind you use. We just like to make sure that it doesn't have any sugar in it. And as you're using your coconut milk, you'll notice that there is different types of coconut milk. Some coconut milks will be really thick enough to spread even. And some coconut milks will be runny, not as thick, like the consistency of milk. And if you're having say you're having your Ames gelatin and it's nice and white, and so that means it's going to set up really good. And you are using really thick coconut milk this time. And you're making your cream, and you let it set up in the fridge like Jell-O before you whip it. And we'll add the coconut milk last. We'll blend it first. And you don't want to have all your ingredients in the blender as you blend, then it'll be a lot harder to blend. So, okay, so you have your cream already set up in the fridge and you're going to whip it. And your Ames gelatin was really white and wonderful, and it set up really good this time. And your coconut milk was really thick. And so it set up so good, and your coconut milk helped it to set up even better. And you're so disappointed because when you're whipping it, it turned out to be like rubber, okay? But don't worry about that. We found out just how to solve it, so it doesn't matter. And as you're whipping it, you just add some non-dairy milk, and we'll show you later how you do that, and it'll turn out just fine. You can add 1/3 of a cup of non-dairy milk to 1/2 of a cup. Depends upon what consistency you like. Okay, how are you coming along there?
Looks like we're ready to blend it.
Okay, we'll just blend it. We're not going to blend it the whole time for you, but you want to blend this for about a minute until it's really nice and smooth. Now you want to blend this a lot longer, for about a minute, and because of that, we have another batch here, and this you want it to blend. You know, when you're finished, you want it to be nice and smooth and the consistency of a pudding. Now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients to this, and we're going to add our coconut milk. Here, you want a spoon for that?
Probably.
And we'll add just a little bit more water, the rest of the water. And we'll add our lemon juice to it also. And when you're adding your vanilla, you want to make whenever you do add vanilla to a cream, though, you want to make sure you use white, the lightest looking vanilla as possible. That'll help not to have a dark color to it.
So that was a pretty thick can of coconut milk. It wasn't one of those runnier kind, was it?
Yes, and if you have a thick one, and if you'd rather, you could just cut it in half and add the rest of it. You can add a non-dairy milk to it.
Okay, so you could
if you don't want it as thick.
Dilute it out, in other words?
You can also buy on the market. You can purchase coconut milk that says light on the front, and they just dilute it with water. And so instead of diluting with water, which would be much better to me, is just add milk. Dilute it with milk. A non-dairy milk.
Non-dairy milk. Okay, that sounds good.
And so we'll just blend this again. This you won't have to blend too long. Okay, that'll be good. And then we'll just pour it into our pan, and we'll let it sit up in the fridge.
So you're going to let it set in the fridge like you would for Jell-O?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then when it sets up, we'll show you how to whip it. Okay, next we're going to share with you how to make a bread recipe with no oil.
Oh, good.
Uh-huh.
And what's the ingredients for this?
Okay, the ingredients are 2 tablespoons of dried active yeast, 2 3/4 cup of hot potato water, 1 tablespoon of salt, 1/3 of a cup of honey, 2 cups of white bread flour, 4 cups of whole wheat flour. Okay, first we want to start with milling our grain, and this is white winter wheat, number 86, and we like to mill the grain fresh so that way it has a nice delicious texture, and white wheat is wonderful because it'll look like you use white flour, but you're actually not going to use white flour unless you prefer to. And it also, milling your grain is wonderful because it will be nice and fresh and it won't be oxidized and aged. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add some here.
What kind of mill are you using?
Oh, this is a whisper mill, and it's wonderful. It's the quietest mill that I've heard so far.
Oh,
and it's
so
really
it's not
good.
Really loud.
And what I have here is I have the bowl, and you want to make sure it's empty first before you start. If you have grain in it, flour in it when you start, and then you fill this up, you'll end up overflowing this, and it'll make it stop, and it will burn it out. And so, I'm going to have this. I'm going to go ahead and put this in here and connect it together, and then we're going to plug it in, and we're going to turn it on, and we're going to add our grain.
What would happen if it unplugged halfway through the process?
Oh, you don't want to make sure it doesn't do that, and you don't want to turn it off halfway through the process because the grains will get caught in the motor and it will jam it.
And that wouldn't be good because then it won't work, huh?
And it's nice to use fresh flour because it'll be nice. It's nice and warm, and when you add it to your bread, it will help it to rise faster because it's so warm.
Okay, well, let's get started.
Okay, first of all, you want to have your potato water in your bowl, and while Audrey's adding the ingredients, you're probably wondering, what is potato water? Potato water is the water that you boil your potatoes in. And you want to save the water for your bread, and if you want, you can measure it out in the quantities you need and just freeze it and pop it out of the freezer and go ahead and use it. Potato water has nice, the natural fat from the potatoes, and so it makes wonderful bread. Okay, and you're adding the honey. Okay, and the kind of yeast I like to use, this yeast is really, really good. It's Red Star active yeast, and this yeast works wonderful, and we're going to add, how much does it call for? 2 tablespoons, and we're going to add 4 tablespoons. We're going to make you a double batch today. We're going to show you a lot of fun things to do with this bread. And 1.
You don't have to worry about prepping your yeast first? You just put it in there like that, huh?
Yes, I just go ahead and just add all the yeast to your bowl. Only time you need to, some people like to add it to warm water and let it bubble before they add it to the bread. That's only when you're not sure if your yeast, to me, if you're not sure if your yeast is good. And I know
Okay.
my yeast is good, and this yeast is wonderful. It works excellent every time.
Okay,
And
so that's foolproof yeast, huh?
Yes, this yeast, I wrap it up, and you might want to put it in another bag. And I like to store it in the freezer. And
That way it keeps its freshness.
yes, and so I like to keep it frozen so that, yeah, it'll rise wonderfully and do its job. Okay, and you added the salt, and we have the honey in here, and potato water, salt, and yeast. Okay, let's add our water. And I'll add the water here. And we're going to add double amount of water. This bread, it will make 4 loaves since we're doubling it. And that's 2. You're going to count for me.
Okay.
And 3. And it holds a double batch wonderfully. Just really nice. Okay, and was that 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is 5 and a half. Okay. We're going to add our flour.
Do we turn it on now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're just going to turn it off here and let you know what we're doing. We're going to add all the flour, and you can just go ahead and add it all at once. And then as it's kneading, you'll notice that it'll start to clean the sides of the bowl. And when you can tell if you've added enough flour, it depends upon, it calls for 12 cups of flour. No, 6 cups of flour, but we're using 12 cups since we're doubling it today. Sometimes I need to use 13 or 14 cups, depends upon how packed your flour is. You can tell by the sides of the bowl, if it starts to get clean, you want it to be nice and clean around the sides. And then we're going to knead it, continue to add the rest of our flour, and then we're going to knead it for 10 minutes. And you definitely want to knead it for 10 minutes. It's very important if you have a double batch or a half of a batch, a single batch. It's very important to knead it for 10 minutes.
Well, that sounds really good. Since we don't have time to show you how the dough is kneaded, we have some pre-kneaded dough. And so are you guys going to get that out for us here?
Okay. Okay, and this has already been kneaded for 10 minutes. And we're going to take the hook out. And I'll let you do that. And we like to add a little bit of oil to our counter while we roll out our dough. If we don't want to add any flour, some people like to add flour, but we added all the flour we needed to this bread, and it cleaned up the sides really nicely. If you notice how clean the sides are. See how clean the sides are? And so when you add more flour, when you roll it out, it's just going to make it way too stiff. And so we'll add a little oil.
And we like to use olive oil, right?
Yes, and if you want to add Pam spray, spray your table with Pam spray instead, because you're afraid it might be too much oil or whatever you prefer, it's fine. Okay, now we're going to, since this is a double batch, we're going to usually cut it in half, but we're going to make 4 pieces. And you can just roll these out and make into bread loaves, or you can make all kinds of fun things, cinnamon rolls, pizza rolls, or honey nut twist, or you can make spinach cheese twist. And first we're going to start with apricot cream. You can go ahead and
With these, you done? Okay.
yeah, but keep them separate. I'll show you those later. And I'm going to roll this out. Okay, you just want to roll your bread out until you have it 18 inches by 12 inches, and probably about this size right here.
So
And-
kind of like a rectangle.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Audrey's going to get the one that we made ahead of time. And this one is made with tinfoil filling. Ooh.
That doesn't sound too appetizing.
And we're going to go ahead and cut it down the center, and we're going to take out the tinfoil, remove it.
So what was the purpose of putting tinfoil in it?
So that way we can fill it with our apricot cream.
So that way it would cook so it would be hollow when it was done?
Yes, because you don't want to bake it with this apricot cream.
Okay, that was the cream that we made at the beginning of the program, isn't it?
Uh-huh. So if you want to help me pull it out here. And this tin foil is, what does it say in our cookbook? It's 13.5 inches by 17 inches long and 2 inches thick. That's what you want. And I'm going to use the same tin foil here. I'm just going to unroll it so that way you want to roll it up nice and you have lots of air in your
Tinfoil.
tinfoil. You don't want it packed. Okay, now we're going to make the braid here. We're going to make our strips. And how wide do we need to make our strips? What does it say in the cookbook?
2 inches? 2 inches wide?
About 2 inches.
Or an inch and a half?
Okay.
Yeah, it says 1.5 inches right here. 4 inches long and 1.5 inches wide.
Mhm.
That looks about that size.
Okay.
So then you cut those strips and then you braid it afterwards.
Uh-huh. Okay, and you get the idea, and so I'll just start cutting this faster here, and so we can start braiding it.
Another thing that would be easy to help cutting faster would use a pizza knife, so you might want to try that too. And also you want to make sure you spray your tin foil so that when you pull it out, you don't have to worry about the bread sticking to it.
And we'll just braid this.
That looks easy.
And
they just overlap one over the other one.
Yeah, go ahead and spray the cookie sheet.
Okay.
And then we'll let it rise for half an hour in a warm oven. I like to put the oven on low, and low as possible, and then let it rise for half an hour, and then bake it for half an hour at 350. And about 15 minutes before the buzzer goes off, you might want to cover it with tin foil, so that way it won't get dark. Okay, well, let's go ahead and wash off our counter, and then we'll whip our cream for this braid over here.
Well, I want to share something that I found in the Mayo Clinic study that they did on cooperative women and their behavior. In this study, their behavior became neurotic, fidgety, nervous, irritable, intolerance to noise, untidy, uncooperative, disagreeable, inconsiderate, lacking self-control, selfish, and hot-tempered. Pretty bad. Well, what happened? Well, they found out the reason was because they were missing something, and that was the good humor vitamin, which is vitamin B, thiamine. So make sure that you get all your vitamins you need, and don't forget the good humor vitamin, vitamin B.
Or be what?
B1, vitamin
Okay.
B1. All right, are we ready to do the apricot filling?
Yeah, we have our our cream that we made earlier today.
You can see it's all set up just like Jell-O, isn't it?
We're going to add it and go ahead and start whipping it.
Okay.
That looks good. And we added our pre-chopped apricot.
That 1/3 of a cup that you reserved.
Uh-huh.
And what was that stuff that you were pouring in while I was mixing?
That was non-dairy milk from our cookbook.
To make it cream better?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Now just scoop it up into your cake bag without a tip. And
Now, why don't you have a tip in there?
oh, so the apricots, because of the apricot.
Okay.
The chunks, they won't go through, will
Yeah.
they?
Okay. And we're just going to go ahead and squirt this in here.
Doesn't that look good? Mm-hmm. That's how you get it in there. That's
Yeah.
neat.
That's easier than spooning it. It would get all over the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. And then what are you going to do with that slice down the center?
We're going to decorate it with whipping cream from our cookbook. And I'll just do the final touches with another bag of whipping cream.
Oh, that looks really good. Never dreamed you'd be able to have an apricot cream puff, would you? On a natural vegetarian diet.
You just cover up all the cuts, and then you just garnish it with apricots and mint leaves. I'm going to stick some mint in here.
That looks good. I want to close with our food for thought. It says pure air, sunlight, temperance, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, and trust in divine power. These are the true remedies. Gratitude, rejoicing, benevolence, and trust in God's love and care. These are health's greatest safeguards. Thank you for joining us today. Just look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And you can learn how to make these too. It's so easy. And the next time we're together, we'll share with you a few other exciting recipes. What are some of the things that we'll be sharing?
Spinach cheese twist.
And a blue ribbon honey nut twist.
And pizza rolls. So that sounds like a lot of fun. You want to stay tuned to the next time we're together. And God bless you in your quest for a healthier lifestyle.